Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done one of these, so let's get right into it. First, I want to congratulate Tortugas, second AFL championship. Congratulations. Second thing I want to do is thank Pure Stevel. Stevel actually helped me with the league rollover this year. He did the bottom half, those two divisions, and I did the top two divisions. And he's really been helping a lot the past, actually back to last season, helping out with contract. So just thanks to that, and let's get on with the state of the league address. Basically, since 2012, the AFL is everything that I ever wanted it to be. Finally, after 7 years of arguing with you nitwits, I finally got the total contract values in. So they've been running for about so the 2000, so 5 full seasons. This will be the 6th year, and finally, I think again the league is everything that I want. I think we've seen some parity return to the league, like the tags and the trade. Well, the tag prices have kind of just leveled out. I think for the most part, minus one owner, trade prices are pretty good, and just overall, I think it's a good, well balanced league with some ebbs and flows in the free agent market and some off seasons, and that's fine. That's the way it should be. However, I do not believe that the state of our league is sound. I'm afraid that our owner turnover is affecting the integrity of the league. Like every year we lose, like for the past several years, we've lost an owner, sometimes more than one. We've already lost one this season, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we lost another one or maybe more. Um, so I just really think that the constant reason that is just the league year is just too long. We're all older. Some of us have kids now, and literally this league is older than the kids. We've had hell. I went through a divorce. I know, we've had loved ones get sick and battle illnesses, and had children, and we want to go on vacation. Um, kind of through all of that, even if a guy hasn't been on the site in 2 weeks in May or June, I start hearing calls to kick that owner out of the league. We even had one guy who was possibly missing in the draft, and everyone was saying, kick him out. And he was dealing with his mother's brain cancer. So, really, it's just not fun. It's a job, and the league's really been kind of basically, if you're one of those who has the ability or just the sheer will to be on the site every day from March 1st to opening kickoff, you have a distinct advantage in the league that other people don't have. Um, so I want to change that. Also, administratively on the back end, it's not fun either. It's not fun having to transfer all the rosters and update the contracts and the salaries and research things that, oh god, this player, this contract doesn't make sense. Oh, I see it was an error, and you have to go back through a year or two and try to find out what happened to this player's contract. And I have to start all of that the day after the Super Bowl, so I don't even get a rest. Um, so even with Stevel's help, it still isn't fun having to the day after the Super Bowl start up a new site and transfer rosters and draft picks and make sure everything goes right. And there's always a screw up, and that's just the nature of the league. But it just sucks. It's not fun. So obviously, after my brother quit, I really thought that I was gonna like just fold the league. It hasn't been fun for me. It just hasn't been fun. I don't think it's been fun. That's why we lose players. However, I kind of had a new train of thought that why don't we make the AFL fun again? So, kind of because of that, I propose a drastic shift in our off-season timeline, and kind of with three lines of thought as to how and why to do that. One, we should drastically shorten our league year and push it closer to the NFL's regular season. We're the only fucking fantasy football league on the planet who does shit in March. It's not fun. I want to play fantasy baseball. 2, it should use like the key NFL dates and events as deadlines in our league. That was kind of one of the reasons that my brother quit, was he said he didn't know when the draft was, even though it was on the site. So because it's just an arbitrary second week in June. Well, let's use key NFL dates and timelines as deadlines in our league. And then the third kind of shift is, let's just simplify it. Let's not have these 7-day windows, 5-day windows, 3-day windows. Let's just kind of do it all the same. So here's what I propose. So here it is, our new proposed timeline. It runs from left to right. On the left is the previous Super Bowl, and on the other side of the timeline is the next year's Super Bowl. Anything in blue is what the NFL does. Anything in red is kind of my proposed timeline for our league. As you can see, as we move from left to right, basically our AFL day one won't begin until the NFL draft. That gives me February, March, and April pretty much off, or a very, very light schedule, even if Sotl helps. Right now, with that March 1st deadline, that Tuesday after the Super Bowl, I am creating the next year's site. I don't get a break. Sotl and I don't get a break. It would just be nice to forget about fantasy football for a while. That doesn't mean I won't be doing anything. I live in Minneapolis now, and there's going to be a cold night in February or March, and I just go, hey, let me just knock out a division of contracts and salaries. I'll update that. There's just not a rush. I have 3 months now, 3 full months to roll the site over, as opposed to a month and a half. So I have twice the time to do it. Then I propose at the NFL draft, that's when our day one is. Basically, our day one means we'll open the league, the site for trading and for waivers. Basically, you can drop any players from your teams or pick anybody up off the waiver wire. And they'll be on the waiver wire for 7 days at that point. Also, to do that, to do any transactions in the league, trades or waivers, you have to have $70 in your League Safe account as a deposit. So what that does is hopefully that prevents an owner from quitting because they've already put half of the deposit, a non-refundable deposit in their League Safe account. Or if they do quit, the pot won't take a hit, because then the new owner will just get a 50% discount and can still win. And the pot, we don't have to take money away from the pot to, in case of a player rollover. So now I want to address Sotl and Tortugas. They wanted to have our AFL draft a week after or shortly after the NFL draft. The reason I oppose that is, in order to do our draft, we have to have the restricted free agent auction out of the way first. Because if a transitional tag player changes teams, then draft picks change hands, and so if we want to have the AFL draft a week or so after the NFL draft, we also have to have the restricted free agent out of the way, which means we have to enforce the salary cap and the roster limits all in April or May. And I just don't think that doesn't meet my 3 criteria of pushing things off towards the end of the NFL season. So let's kind of move forward. So now we go through May, June, and July. So basically we've got 3 months of of nothing, and then 3 months of light activity, just trades and waivers. If you don't want to trade, you don't have to. So that's almost 6 months off of the league. So the next, basically up on the top there, you see the next real big timeline is the Hall of Fame game in the NFL. What I propose then is that Sunday, usually the Hall of Fame game is on a Thursday night now. So that Sunday before the Hall of Fame game, that's when we would have our restricted free agent auction. All of the tags would be due. The roster limits and the salary cap would be enforced at that point. And then we would do we could start the restricted free agent auction the night of, or excuse me, that Sunday before the draft. That would be a 24-hour auction. Basically, if the highest bidder hasn't changed in 24 hours, from this point on, we would reduce that waiver wire down to from 7 days to 1 day. So from that point on, everything would be 24 hours. Both that auction high bid limit, highest bidder limit, or the waiver wire itself. So just one timeline. It's just 24 hours. All auctions, if the highest bidder hasn't changed in 24 hours after the Hall of Fame, the Sunday before the Hall of Fame game, then the auction's over. So after that, the night of the Hall of Fame game, which is a Thursday night, we could do the AFL draft. It might be we could knock the draft out while we're all watching the game together. I think that would be fun. Also, that time, the fifth-year options would be due. If you want to do, a fifth-year option, you would have to do it by the start of the draft. And the start of the draft would be the start of the Hall of Fame game. And then also, I just kind of want to talk about there is no circumstance in which an NFL team would miss the draft. They might go over on their time limit, but they're just not going to miss the draft. So I also kind of propose, I think there's an option in the settings that if an owner misses a pick, it automatically picks like the next best according to the average draft position on My Fantasy League. I think that might be a good idea because then we don't affect the integrity of the league because somebody forgot about the draft or they forgot to push save on their auto picks or their internet went down or whatever. So there's no way that a team would miss the draft, and I just hate to mess with the integrity of the league just if something just kind of bad happens. So anyway, I'm up for that. But anyway, I would kind of like just to do an automatic pick of the next best player on the board. From then, basically after that, the restricted free agent as well, once that's over, once that 24-hour time limit's done, we could start the free agent draft. So you'd have the restricted free agent draft, then the free agent draft, then the draft, and you'd keep continuing with the free agent draft through the draft, obviously. So after that point, you see here, we kind of reach the NFL preseason. So you will have the auction going on. Time limits are 24 hours. We'll have trades going on, and we'll have waivers, the waiver wire. That'll also be 24-hour time frame. After basically week 3, that's when the prior season's salary adjustments would come off the books. This is really a technicality, but basically anything that happens after week 10, any salary adjustments that happened in week 10 the year prior come off at some point. So they would come off here. Basically what that does is it prevents salary dumping at the end of one season because you're going to be penalized at the first part of the auction of the next season. And then from right there, we would then hit the week 1 of the NFL, which is obviously our regular season start. The remaining $70 would be due by kickoff. And basically the rest is the same from there on out. So that is my proposal. I guess there might be a couple of questions about the auction and, hey, are we still going to, during the preseason, Do we still do like the one player on the auction block per position? I think we could probably make that work if we're just in that 24-hour time frame. But we could definitely look at that. But I think it's gonna work. So anyway, that's my plan. Keep it simple. Push it towards the NFL and use their key dates as kind of references. Let me know what you think. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind if we did that this year. We could just pause the auction now and just put everything off until the Hall of Fame game. I realize that's a stretch, but a boy can dream. Cheers, mates.